So let's discuss what will happen in the short term and in the long term if Pax Judaica really is the end goal, okay? So when you have Israel fighting wars everywhere, okay? The main enemy right now is Iran. In Europe, you have the Europeans about to go to war with Russia in Ukraine. America right now is threatening to attack Venezuela, okay? South America. You have 10% of the US Navy in the Caribbean, and they're about to attack Venezuela. You have China and Japan at conflict. You have India here, and you have Africa, okay? So what's going to happen in the short term? Okay, well, what we know is that Europe is planning to go to war with Russia. Okay. Europe is about to go to war with Russia, okay? At the same time, you have a lot of immigrants in Europe. And this is going to create civil wars in Europe. Okay, civil war. So you have both war with Russia as well as civil war. So Europe is kind of screwed, okay? America has the same situation where the left-right divide is so polarized that eventually they'll go to war. If you read the news, you may have heard about the shootings at Brown University, as well as this MIT physicist who were shot, okay? So random violence will be more and more common in the United States. And you can argue that it's all deliberate because the idea is this. Let's just say you have a jar. You put red ants in the jar and black ants in a jar. They get along fine. But you take the jar and you just shake it up, and now they're at war with each other, okay? That's what's happening where the left and right, they really don't like each other. They don't talk to each other, and they refuse to engage in debate with each other. But they're not going to fight each other unless there's violence. In which case, their tribal mentality takes over and they start killing each other, okay? So we're going to expect civil war in the United States. Then you're going to have the Americans start to attack Venezuela and possibly other countries in South America. So America is in for a bad time, okay? China, yeah, I mean, Japan and China and India, they're all going to have conflicts with each other. But also, what we should expect is that America starts to embargo China, meaning America uses its sea power to block China from accessing resources from overseas. And China imports most of its oil and a lot of its food. So if there's a blockade of China, you can expect the Chinese economy to really suffer, okay? All right, and then what we can expect to happen is America at some point will go to war with Iran. And this will destroy both countries, okay? Iran will not lose this war, but it won't win this war either because America is just going to bomb the crap out of Iran. It's going to send Iran back decades. But America will lose this war, but this is important because if America loses this war, it's forced out of the Middle East. And once it's forced out of the Middle East, all its military assets goes to Israel, which creates the Pax Judaica. Does that make sense, guys? That's the plan. Okay, now you have Pax Judaica. And what Pax Judaica will do is start to control the world. Because through chaos and conflict, Pax Judaica can make a lot of money, right? Because Pax Judaica, what's going to happen is that you have these technology companies like Google, they're going to move over to Pax Judaica and build a global surveillance state. You have civil wars, you need AI to control people. If you're going to war with Russia, you need weapons, okay? But you also need financing as well. So you can expect a lot of banks to move to Israel, and it's possible Israel becomes now the global reserve currency because everyone is trading with Israel. If you're Russia, you need to trade with, you need to trade your resources, right? oil, energy, and grain. Okay, so Russia controls a third of the world's carbohydrates. Guess what, guys? Israel controls Africa. So what will happen is that Russia and other countries will sign a trade agreement with Israel, and Israel becomes the center of global trade. Okay, does that make sense? So this is how Pax Judaica will profit. And remember that Israel has the world's best intelligence agency, the Mossad. And what they can do is go around the world and create as much chaos as possible. Okay? So while the world is burning, Israel, Pax Judaica, is profiting. And that's what the future looks like for the next 10, 20 years. And this will, of course, lead to the rise of the Antichrist, who will take control of Pax Judaica and force the world to eventually attack Israel in something called the War of Gog and Magog. And this will, of course, lead to the second coming of Jesus. So that's a grand plan, okay? Right? Any questions? Does it make sense to you guys? I know it's evil. And you know what? I could be a complete idiot, okay? I could just making all this up. But you have to ask yourself 3 questions. Does it connect to the past? Does it explain what's happened in the past? Does it explain what's happening today? And will these things happen in the future, okay? So we haven't lived through the future yet, but you can see the trends. Yeah, Vincent? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Like you said that AI, they will, God, create lives and create AI at Jerusalem. But I think, ChatGPT, they already create AI in Silicon Valley.
Okay. ChatGPT is not AI. It's an LLM, okay? Artificial intelligence is a thinking, conscious, sentient force. That's like God. So they're trying to create God in Jerusalem, okay? Out of Solomon's temple. Does that make sense? Okay? Any more questions before we go to the PPT? But you guys understand what's happening, right? Okay, let's go to the PPT. And again, guys, it's all just speculation on my part. I have no idea what will happen, okay? Like everyone else. Okay? All right, guys, the Promised Land. This is the Greater Israel Project. Okay, this is what Yahweh promised to Abraham in the Bible. As you can see, it's pretty huge. It's the entire Middle East. It extends from the Nile to the Euphrates in Iraq. Okay, it's a huge area. And if you say the Israelis want to achieve the Greater Israel Project, they call you a conspiracy theorist. So we don't want that, okay? But explain 2 things to me. First of all, why is the Greater Israel map on a chevron of an IDF soldier, okay? These are soldiers, Israeli soldiers, and they wear the insignia of the Greater Israel Project, okay? This is the map. Also, if you look at the flag of Israel, there are 2 blue lines, right? These represent rivers, the Nile and the Euphrates. All right? So if it's a conspiracy theory, then how do you explain these 2 things? All right, but I want to argue you know what? Pax Judaica, it's not about Israel or the Greater Israel Project. What it is ultimately is an alliance of transnational capital, multinationals like Google and Meta, and intelligence agencies that will be based in Jerusalem, okay? So secret societies will be based in Jerusalem, and they will use it as a headquarters for their global conspiracy. But, and they will profit from chaos and conflict around the world because they think that this is the culmination of the prophecy. But it doesn't necessarily mean that Jews will be in charge. Okay, does that make sense, guys? Okay, so it's a much more complicated idea than people think it is. All right, so where do we get this stupid idea from? Okay, it actually starts with Isaac Newton. So Isaac Newton, you learn about him in physics class, you learn that he's the founder of calculus, you learn about Newtonian mechanics, okay? But actually, these are just side projects of his. That was not his focus. He spent most of his life focusing on reading the Bible to understand the grand plan of God. And he wrote a book called observations upon the prophecy of Daniel and the apocalypse of St. John, okay? That's where his focus was. And he believed he found the Bible code. And he was a member of secret societies. He was a member of the British elite. And if someone like Isaac Newton is telling you, like, this is what the Bible says, and this guy who found a calculus and who developed the 3 laws of motion, you'll probably believe him, okay? But the guy was insane. All right, so what he did was he's looked at certain sections of the Bible and put them together into a story about, okay? And so this is Ezekiel 37. And so Ezekiel 37 says that the Lord God tells the prophet Ezekiel that, yes, I've scattered the people of Israel, but now I bring them back together. And then I will make your nation great. I will make flowers bloom. I will make your city prosperous, okay? And this is all in the Bible. Ezekiel 38 says that eventually there'll be a war of Gog and Magog, when Gog and Magog will come invade Israel, but God will come and defend Israel, and he will destroy Gog and Magog. And if you read the Bible, we don't have time to read the Bible, but it's really violent language. So the Israelis believe that for heaven to come, there first must be hell on earth. All right, so Newton's plan to force second coming, okay? And this becomes the basis of Freemasonry, right? Freemasons were really invented in order to promote the second planet coming plan. The Freemasons were first in England, but then where did they go? They went to America. Many of the founding fathers of America, including Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, were Freemasons. So America was founded in many ways to achieve this plan, okay? So what's the plan? Well, you have to first reconstitute the nation of Israel and make it prosper, okay? It's really important that it becomes very wealthy. And in fact, Israel is one of the wealthiest countries in the world. You have to have the Jewish diaspora return to Israel, and that means you promote prosperity, but you also have to promote a Jewish conspiracy. So while you're letting the Jews get rich in the West, you're also promoting the idea that the Jews control the world. Okay, it's all part of this plan. You have to rebuild Solomon's temple. You have to have the war of Gog and Magog. You have to have the Antichrist. You have to have Armageddon, okay? And this will force Jesus to return and usher in the millennium age. Okay? Does that make sense? That's a grand plan. And unfortunately, most of these things have been achieved, okay? These are the Freemasons, and the top leadership is focused on achieving this plan developed by Newton. Eventually what will happen is that Adam Weishaupt will found the Illuminati with Jacob Frank, and they will infiltrate Freemasons. And why do the Freemasons allow Adam Weishaupt and the Illuminati to infiltrate the Freemasons? Because Jews are an important part of this plan. They need Jews in place. They need Jews to go back to Jerusalem and build the nation of Israel and conquer the world in order for this plan to work out, okay? So it is an alliance between the Freemasons and the Illuminati. This is Rothschild, and Rothschild will establish many branches throughout Europe, okay? Jacob Frank, we've discussed in the past. But this is a major alliance, okay? All right. Once we understand that it's these secret societies and their grand plan in motion,